Alright, welcome back. Today, as you see, I've got a mess going on here, and I figure I was going to turn on my camera. This is my Orange Summit. This thing is brand new, and I had a catastrophic failure. I did a video in comparison with this with my 6S Summit. And this thing was all stock except for this rear brace that I stick on my Summits and my e-Revo. But when I powered this thing up, I noticed for the first time that my shift servo wasn't working properly. And I can only get it in low gear, and if I manually would move it, it would click into high gear. So I went ahead and ran it, and then I noticed that I started smelling something funny. I didn't think anything of it. I thought something outside might have been in the air, so I went ahead and pulled this thing over. I left it on. Or I powered it off, but I left the batteries plugged in. And I went ahead and grabbed my 6S Summit, did some running around with that, and then came back to this, and I started noticing some like funny smell. And I thought, oh my God, the servo must be jammed, and the servo smoked. So anyhow, I unplugged the batteries real quick. I grabbed both of them, put them inside, put this back on pulled the batteries out, put it back on the shelf, and figured I'm going to order up a shift solenoid. Granted, this is brand new. I've never run it. I bought it because I modified my other Summit so much that I wanted a stock platform. So anyhow, went ahead and I ordered up the upgraded servos. Now, these things are not cheap. And my plans were to throw these in my 6S Summit because that thing's fully modified and it's the original servos, steering servos, everything in that. So I grabbed two. I should have grabbed three to change the three of them. These things are $49 a piece. And the part number is a 2065X, which replaces the factory ones with metal gears. So anyhow, I grabbed two of them, and I was like, you know what? Today, I was like, let me get this thing fixed. So I pulled it in here, started to take out the servo, and I was like, God, this thing still smells like it's burning. And so in order to get the lines out, I had to cut a bunch of zip ties right here. And I got into here and I started looking and I said, you know what? Let me power it up to check this servo. Well, I plugged it in with two batteries and two 2S's, and I don't have a lot of 2S batteries, but recently I bought a couple of them for my drag builds. Because I realized I didn't have any 2S batteries that were any good anymore. I have a lot of 2S batteries, but it seems like every one I tested is bad. So I literally have like a handful of like 8 or 10 2S batteries that are bad. But we don't use 2S much around here. So long story short, I got to smelling. This motor was stinking. And I was like, God, why does this motor stink, but the servo doesn't stink? So I was like, God, I hope this motor isn't bad, because, you know, then I realized that this ESC stinks real bad, and look what I ran across. So the power line that's supposed to go in here melted off, and this thing stinks really bad. So I unplugged this is the whole powertrain system for this thing, which sucks because this thing is brand new. So luckily, because I converted my other one I still have the original ESC and Titan motor, and I never had an issue with these. And I ran this for a little while before I converted it to 6S. Like I said, I had that RC 10 years before I even thought about converting it. And so I have another ESC and motor, which I'm going to pop in here, because I'm not going to put any of that stuff back in. I am going to send this whole thing back to Traxxas, because this isn't cool. So I'm going to have to steal the gear off of this and this, but this is all going back to Traxxas. So I'm going to call them up and let them know that, you know, yes, this thing is 6 months old, but I've never powered it up. Hopefully they believe me. Traxxas support is usually really good. Long story short, this servo still wasn't working. So I'm going to get this servo pulled out of here. I'm going to get these electronics changed, and that's what I'm in the middle of doing. I figured I would make a video on it. As you see, Orange Summit, I mark it. So I've got some batteries charging up right now. Now, in order to get out this ESC, I had to pop out the receiver. This receiver is packed because it's got front and rear locking diffs. It's got the 2-speed transmission deal. It's got 2 steering servos. So for this thing to be brand new and have these electrical problems, I don't know what happened to this RC. If it was even tested before it was shipped out. But my other one has been flawless. And I did modify it a couple years ago on 6S, and I've only had to change a couple of spur gears because I leave that plastic to strip out in case something happens. But I really want to get this thing up and going because summer's here and we want to get out and do a little bashing with the Summits. So I hate having RCs that just don't work. And the other thing I noticed is, look at these. These are normally dark blue, and look how light they are. They're like light blue for some reason. Like they faded or something. Like it's dark there, but then really light over there. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this RC. I've never cleaned it, never washed it. It is kind of dusty because it's been sitting in the garage up on the shelf. But I'm in the middle of doing this, so I figured I'd turn on the camera and show you what I'm doing. So I've already got the ESC unplugged from channel 2. Hopefully my receiver is okay. Just the ESC's burnt. The motor most likely is good, but I don't know what caused that ESC to burn. So I'm not putting any of that stuff back in. I'm going to run my system that I know works. I've never had to rebrush this thing or anything. It's always worked. So, I don't know. But I'm going to take a look and see where this, what channel this other one is plugged into. So this one looks like it's right behind the ESC. So that's easy enough. The 2 steering servos, then the ESC, then the transmission. So let me see if I can get this thing squeezed out of here. Now there's not much room in here to get these big connectors out of here. And that's why I popped out this receiver so that I can squeeze these things out of here. Now there is a little bracket that this thing goes to. So I'm hoping that I can squeeze this out without taking any more stuff apart, because I pretty much got this whole RC ripped apart now just to change out this trend. And I shouldn't even have to be doing this. This thing is literally brand new. So I don't know what's holding in that bracket. I don't know. It looks like everything's kind of just packed on this thing. I'm getting a little lost with my screw placement too, so there's one of the screws just fell out the bottom. I'm sure the other one's going to pop out in a minute. So it pretty much only comes out one way. So I got that out. That's going to go in the junk pile, and all that stuff's going back to Traxxas if they want it. When I talk to them on the phone, I haven't called them. I want to make sure I can get this RC up and running, so that if I need anything else, it can get ordered up. That is truly a tight fit right there. See if I can get this bracket back in there properly. That's what those two bolts are for. At least I hope they're the short ones. Maybe it's one short and one long. I'm going to just set the screw on the shift linkage servo until I can power it up. So I'm going to start routing this stuff back where it goes. And there was 3 zip ties holding this stuff down, so that it stayed clear from everything. So I'm going to add those zip ties back in there. And then this was one back. Now Traxxas does put a slot on it so that you know which way the connector goes into the ESC. Grab some small zip ties here, 3 of them again. See if I can grab all these wires. Now I'm going to add my ESC. Haven't worked on a Traxxas in a while, but this light, so you can see it, should be over the ESC. I will be popping this stuff back off to add some of the Vaseline or grease around this. Traxxas has a special grease for it. So we got that all back in there. So now I'm going to get this gear taken off. Just like that. Then we're going to pop out this adapter. Now I'm going to make sure that I have this the right way. So wires facing down. So it looks like there's only 2 positions for it. So there we go. Now if you want, you could add Loctite to this, but I don't feel the need on this brush system. And then pop this gear back on. Now I'm going to have to pop cover off to set the mesh. Yeah, that seems kind of hard. So I'm going to leave that loose for now until I can set the mesh. God, that's so hard to turn. I wonder if something's wrong inside the tranny causing it to get hot. Oh, let me get my adapters off this one. So I have adapters for these ends. And Traxxas had they had changed these ends already. As you see, the new style is completely covered, in the old style this. So that's another way to tell your ESC if you have a newer style or an older style. This is the original, which I'm starting to think that the original stuff was just better. But I got everything on until I can get the batteries in to get it powered up, so that I can set mesh. So let me see about popping this cover off, because I think it's just this one bolt right here. So that cover comes off so I can set my mesh, and of course it is way off. Look at that. Look at all that slop. Look at all that slop before it moves. And as you see, it's still stuck in low gear. But look at all that slop before this transmission moves. Wow. So I'm going to leave that mesh cover off. Wow. That tranny just feels so hard. But there we go. I got everything swapped out. So I'm going to pause the video here until I get some batteries charged up, and then we'll come back, turn on the remote, make sure everything works. Be right back. All right. I got the controller bound back up. This is the one I bound to a watermelon. Somehow it lost the binding on this one. So here we go. There's our high speed. There's our low speed. Let's try these diffs. So everything seems to be working now, which is great. And then let's try our steering. So gyro's working too. Our diffs are locked there. So you can see that all the way back is unlocked diffs, and center is just rear locked, and all the way forward is all four locked. So finally everything is working out of my new Summit. So I ended up having to change the shifting servo, the ESC because the wire pulled out, and the motor. And this was all brand new right out of the box. This thing pretty much almost caught on fire out of the box, and this thing was basically stripped, and the 2-speed never worked. So $50 for the upgraded steering servo, and then the other two I had from my other Summit, which sucks. So I'm gonna contact Traxxas and let them know what happened with this RC. But at least now my Summit is back to being normal. So I really missed. Well, I never even missed it because I never even got to run this one. There we go. So now that everything's working, I should be able to do another comparison with this one versus my modified 6S Summit. So like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on my next video. Appreciate everybody for watching. Let me know what you guys think of the Summit. We're gonna get this thing out and compare it to the 6S now that I have both speeds and everything working properly. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on my next one.